Welcome back, and thank you for joining us on this very special two-part episode as we discuss the Living at Home and Intellectual Disabilities waivers offered through the Department of Mental Health. If you have not seen part one, please be sure to look it up on our channel. Otherwise, we've got a lot of information and places that we need to get to today. So let's get to it on this very special part two of this episode of Tools of the Trade. In our last episode, you met my co-host, Julie Agee, the waiver coordinator from the Region 1 Community Services Office. Together, we began our road trip that started out in Decatur, Alabama. We headed south to Coleman and then up to Scottsboro, Alabama in Jackson County. We talked to staff and professionals who discussed adult companion services, personal care transportation, and respite. Then in Jackson County, we looked at community experience and community day hab, discussing the difference between those two waiver services. Now, we're continuing our road trip to discuss the ID and LAH waivers that are offered by the Department of Mental Health. Next stop is Madison County, where in Huntsville, we're going to meet up with Brenda Taylor Moody, a community work incentives counselor, who's going to discuss with us the implications involved with Social Security and going back to work. We're going to be discussing benefits planning and benefits reporting and how it can impact someone's benefits when they decide to go back to work.
Okay, our community work incentive counselors, we go through about a year of training in order to become certified, and our training is ever going. We have to keep our skills sharp as rules and stuff change. Benefits planning is one of those things that we do. If you've decided to go to work or you've gotten a job, we can go with you and step by step and plan how work affects your benefits. For instance, if you had a job that paid $7.25 an hour or $14, each of those we will tailor things for you, how your benefits would be affected, your SSI or SSDI. Also, if you receive any other government assistance such as TANF or subsidized housing, we can tell you how working will affect each of those benefits. Say you need to go to school, you've decided you want an educational plan. We as community work incentive counselors also help you with that. Great thing is, we never go away. As your life changes and you have different things happen, because life does happen, all you have to do is call us up and hey, we're right there to help you make a new plan. It's all about adjustment and not leaving you alone as you transition through life. Benefits planning is offered through the waiver program for consumers with disabilities. Benefits planning is one of the services offered to mental health consumers. It's free. That's the thing. It is free. The Department of Mental Health now employs 4 CWICs, and we're all over the state. So there's somebody in your region. We're available all the time. We're trained to help you navigate the waters of Social Security. We know it can be confusing with all the forms and documents and the legal speak. That's why we're here. We're here to help you. Another waiver service that is offered is benefits reporting. Benefits reporting is to report wages to Social Security on behalf of the consumer so we can keep track of everything. You'll have a copy as well as Social Security. To be eligible to engage in benefits reporting, you must complete the classes that are offered through the mental health CWICs. The class is not long at all. It takes about 30 to 45 minutes, I would say. It's engaging, we do games, and you're allowed to ask all questions. We come to you, your time, your schedule, and help you get what you need. A consumer does not have to be working in order to utilize our services. They just have to express an interest in maybe finding a position. Work isn't required.
as Julie and I prepare to pull out of Huntsville, Alabama, and head to our next stop, I receive a phone call that I have been waiting for several days in an attempt to reach a job coach here in Huntsville. John Steele has finally been able to get back with me.
Hey Derek, it's John Steele from the Arc of Madison County. I know you've been trying to get in touch with me and everything. I'm about 30 minutes free right now. You want to meet up?
John, just like all of our other job coaches across the state, is an extremely busy person. So Julie and I waste no time in heading across town to meet up with him at the Arc of Madison County. John's going to talk to us today about two crucial supported employment services: job coaching and job development. It takes a charismatic person with a big personality to be able to meet employers where they are and find the success that John Steele has found here in Madison County.
When I just talk about job coaching with my, with friends or family, I just say, I help individuals with disabilities or with abilities to find jobs in our community that may need a little extra help. And what that entails is, I will help with applications. I will help with finding the jobs that they're interested in. I help with assessments where I take them to certain employers around the community, for a couple hours, and they kind of job shadow, then do that said job for a little bit to see if it's something that they're interested in. And then following the assessments, situational assessments, we start applying for jobs. So we do a number of things where I will, have them come to the office here at Career Center, and we will apply for jobs. We will go over interview questions, like typical interview questions, and then if they don't have a resume, we will work on a resume. So once that is done, once we feel like we're comfortable with where they're at, that's when we start, seeing interviewing opportunities come about. Now, as for when we place somebody, I will usually work or job coach for about 2 weeks. It may change. It may be less than that, maybe more than that, depending on just what their need is at the time. I've placed people at Publix, where a lot of times Publixes will train them themselves, and they won't necessarily need me. So that's when I go there and just observe for a little bit to see if they need any extra assistance in anything. And you're there with any kind of assistance you can provide the individual, of course, and as well as the employer. Some individuals may need a little bit more assistance than others, but that's what I'm there for. So after that 2-week period, where however long it takes to do the job coaching bit, you're still there for another 3 months or so, and observing and going once or twice a week, just depending on the individual needs at that time. It's always good to go, and I always like to go observe as much as possible, at least once a week. It doesn't always happen. You have a big caseload, and other job coaching opportunities come up for other individuals. So that's what I try to do. 90 days after job retainment, that's when they kind of close out of what we call a milestone program, and that's when it goes into extended services. So extended services is as long as they retain the job that the employment specialist, job coach, job developer provided, you would go there at least once a quarter, like once every 3 months, to kind of see if they've continued to do well at the job, and if they've changed their duties. If they change their duties, you can go back and job coach for a little bit, once or twice a week, just kind of see, and it's also for the employer to let the job coach know if there needs to be any extra assistance towards that individual. But as for the job coaching part, you want to be a fairly social person, and it may get uncomfortable at times to go and just start talking to employers, to ask to hire somebody or to place somebody in an assessment. So you're kind of selling a product in a way, but instead you're selling a person to where they can be, successful and help that employer in need. So as for, looking for job coaches, you know, as a provider, you want to look for somebody that is willing to go to an employer and meet with, you know, managers, general managers, anybody, hiring managers that can be helpful in either setting up assessments or job placement. So to become job coach certified, you have to do some training with ADRS and mental health. You know, it takes a lot of patience at times to when you're doing the job coaching, to work with so many moving parts. You know, you gotta make sure the individual is happy where they're at, and also the employer is happy with the individual that they placed. You know, and that's just like any other, you know, neurotypical being hired somewhere. The employer obviously wants to be happy with that individual, but you got to make sure everybody's happy and it's a win-win situation for everybody, or they won't succeed.
Thanks, John, for such, a detailed overview of supported employment, job coaching, job development services. You gave us a lot of detailed information in such a short amount of time. I would like to add a few comments to somewhat clarify a few things, though. Now, you mentioned milestones, and this is how the Alabama Department of Rehabilitative Services, or Vocational Rehabilitation, pays for supported employment. Individuals interested in working must first access those VR services before the waiver can be utilized for supported employment. Now, while VR may have some defined timelines for the milestone services, the waiver is more customized and individualized in that the individual receives the amount of support or coaching necessary to be successful at maintaining their employment.
Okay.
Typically, VR provides some assessment services, provides the job development placement, as well as some initial job coaching to help the individual achieve initial stabilization on the job. The employment services in the waiver are then provided to help support that person's long-term employment goals. Should VR services not be available for whatever reason, all of the employment services in the waiver at that point become an option for the individual wanting to go to work. Providers, support coordinators, all you need to do, just obtain or provide documentation that is related to VR's inability to provide employment services. Now, you mentioned training for individuals that want to work as job coaches, job developers. The individuals hired into these positions, they definitely do wear a lot of hats, and some of the qualities you mentioned are very important as you're working with multiple customers. Customers like the individual that wants to go to work, potentially their family, other supports, along with the employer that offers the employment opportunities. So you're right, you got to be somebody who is upbeat, positive, somebody who really is excited to help people change their lives, sort of change the trajectory that they're going in. We hope that employment services become the most utilized services in the Department of Mental Health waivers, as we see more and more individuals obtain employment in the community. We have regional employment specialists across the state that provide technical assistance and training that are available to support this goal. So for all support coordinators out there, or support providers out there that need that assistance, they can reach out to us and we'll be happy to help in any way that we can. John, man, I know your time is valuable, but thank you so much for taking a few minutes today and spending it with us. We have another interview that we have got to get to this schedule, but thank you so much, man. As we approach the final leg of our road trip, we review where we've been, starting in Decatur and headed down to Coleman, up to Scottsboro, Alabama, and over to Huntsville. We find ourselves now back in the river city of Decatur, Alabama, where we're going to an agency almost across the street from the Department of Mental Health's regional offices. We're headed to the Centers for Developmentally Disabled, North Central Alabama, where we're going to meet with a man associated with them for the last 28 years. Chief Executive Officer Brad Romine is going to discuss assessment and discovery, pre-vocational services in the community, employment small group, and employment transportation to help us gain as much information possible on these final waiver services.
And assessment discovery is really about a in-depth look into an individual's life to find their strengths, find their weaknesses, which we all have, and then try to put in place all the things necessary to make sure that you have a good placement when you find them a integrated job. It's really an opportunity to put all the pieces in place prior to them going to work. Oftentimes that involves transportation, natural supports on the job, which could be coworkers, could be family, could be friends, could be neighbors, any of those things. But really getting creative and taking the time necessary to dig in depth and find out what it's going to take to make it a successful placement when they go to work and find that job. Really, the biggest thing is make sure that you take the time necessary, that you get out in the community with the individual. You know, take them to the coffee shop, take them out to eat somewhere, sit around the table. A lot of good conversation happens in more natural settings versus sitting around a boardroom table or sitting around a table in an office somewhere. Employment small groups, and we have a number of them that we have in the local community. We've developed some relationships with some employers here in Decatur that have allowed us to put a number of individuals to work. We don't have any small groups that have more than 2 individuals. And most of ours are actually one-on-one support. We feel like that we're able to provide a more intensive support. It will allow individuals that maybe need a little bit more support on the job to be able to find that employment, find a good fit, find a job in the community that will assist them. And 2, we look for, one of the big keys that we found is really finding the right staff person. We have some individuals that work in food service. The person that supports them is actually, our employee is actually ServSafe Manager certified, so they have an understanding of the rules, the regulations, the health department codes, etc. that are in place that employer has to adhere to, allows them to provide a better level of support to the individuals that we're supporting in that environment. The relationships that we try to build are really with the HR folks at the employment sites. Most employers are really looking for employees, and if we have a good relationship with them, we oftentimes, they'll call us looking for people that we can put to work, that they would like to hire and put to work in their business. Yeah, and community pre-voke is really an opportunity for us to take individuals out to help them. We feel like it's an opportunity to help them gain skill sets that will lead them to employment. We've been most successful in doing that through volunteer opportunities, oftentimes with other nonprofits in the community that need help. Our folks can go in and assist individuals with not learning specific skills, but learning how to perform in a job site, learning job readiness skills, pre-vote type of skills that would prepare them to go to work in the community or in a business. Transportation is really the single biggest obstacle for putting people to work, whether it's small work group or whether it is supported employment. We find that transportation is oftentimes the single biggest hurdle, and it is something that is billable through the waiver that you can get reimbursed for. And my advice with the employment services, they are extremely, what we found to be very profitable to the provider side. It's really a win-win. It's a win for the individuals that we put to work in the community. It's a win for the businesses because they get a good employee, and it's a win for us as an agency from a fiscal standpoint. The billable rates for both community pre-vote and the employment small group, we have found to be sufficient to make it a very profitable support to provide. From an agency standpoint, there's a lot of services that we as providers provide that are not necessarily as viable as those, but the employment is really the focus at the national level and hence at the state level. And so we found it to be a very beneficial support to provide. We have a lot of individuals that want jobs and want to go to work and want to earn wages. And when we can make that happen for them, it's a win all the way around for everybody.
We have been a long way today and put a lot of miles on this Dodge Charger. I want to thank all of our providers who took part in today's road trip, and I especially want to thank Julie Agee, our subject matter expert from the region, for being a part of today's episode. Now, if you like what you saw here, be sure to subscribe to our channel and make sure that you hit the notification bell below so that you can be notified anytime there's a new episode of Tools of the Trade. Our contact information is also below. Be sure to reach out to us if you have any questions or anyone in the department that can assist you with the waiver services. So all that being said, it's time to get down to real business, Julie. I'm starving.
I am so hungry.
All right, barbecue?
Pizza.
All right, thanks for joining us on today's episode of Tools of the Trade. It's time for barbecue.
Pizza.
All right, pizza it is.